I grew up in a farmhouse that didn't have a basement. It had something under it. The house stood alone in the middle of the prairie that never really stopped moving. Even on still days, the grass shifted in long, slow patterns, like something was passing beneath it. You could stand on the back steps and see for miles in every direction. No trees, no hills, no buildings. Just field, sky, and our house anchored in the middle like it had been placed there rather than built. My parents always called the place solid. What they meant was old. The boards were wide and bowed. The nails were square. The windows held ripples in the glass. And when winter wind pressed against the siding, the whole structure flexed slightly, exhaling long wooden creaks that traveled from one end of the house to the other. But there was no basement. At least, that's what I believed until I was 8. It started with weight. Not scratching, not movement, not animals. Weight. At night, when the house settled and the prairie wind dragged along the walls, something underneath would shift. Not quickly, not violently, but with a slow, deliberate pressure, like a body adjusting against earth. You didn't hear it so much as feel it through the floorboards. A change in support, a subtle drop in tension, like something large was repositioning beneath you. I asked my father once if animals lived under the house. He said no. I asked if there was a crawl space. He said not anymore. He said it casually, almost absently, like correcting a child about something trivial. Not anymore. After that, I started noticing the door. It was in the pantry, low, narrow, and built into the floor at the back wall, half hidden beneath shelving where the preserves and flour sacks were kept. The wood didn't match the rest of the house. It was darker, older, worn smooth by hands, not feet. I never saw it open, but I remember the iron ring handle and the faint seam around the edges where it separated from the boards. The first time it tracked me, I thought the house was sick. It was winter. The cold had pushed so hard against the walls that frost grew along the inside corners of the kitchen. I'd come down for water and stood barefoot on the pantry boards, waiting for the pump to fill the glass. That's when the floor shifted under me. Not a creak. A depression. Slow, heavy, measured. The boards bowed downward, then held, as if something below had leaned up and was testing the exact shape of my weight. It stayed there, directly beneath where I stood. Then it moved. Not away, across. The pressure slid along the underside of the boards in a smooth, horizontal glide, keeping perfect alignment with my feet as I stepped back. One step, slide beneath. One step, slide beneath. Every time my weight shifted, it followed from below with exact pace. Never losing position, never drifting, always centered under me. Dust along the pantry seams trembled with each glide. I ran. I didn't tell my parents, because children know when something isn't meant to be said aloud. Years passed before I saw the door open. I tell myself now it was the frost and soil and old wood reacting to winter. Prairie houses settle, foundations move, Structures breathe. That's what basements are for, to separate living space from the pressure below. But our house didn't have a basement. It had something else under it. And that distinction matters. I was 14 when the storm came, the kind that builds all afternoon until the sky turns green and the wind goes sideways across the fields. My parents had gone into town before the rain started, leaving me alone to close windows and secure the outbuildings. By the time thunder rolled over the house, the air inside had gone still. That charged quiet before impact. I was in the pantry getting candles when I saw it. The door wasn't flush anymore. One edge had lifted, just enough for a dark seam to show between wood and frame. And from that seam came air. Cold, wet, earth-smelling, and rhythmic. The door rose another inch, slowly, from below. No hands, no hinges moving, no sound of effort, just pressure lifting the slab upward from beneath, as if the ground itself were pushing it open. I couldn't move, because I understood something in that moment I hadn't before. Whatever was under the house didn't need the door opened from above. The gap widened. Darkness beneath it wasn't empty. It had depth, presence, like looking down a well at night. Then the boards under my feet shifted again. Not from the door this time. From behind me. It had moved. It had left the opening and repositioned directly beneath where I stood. The door dropped shut, hard, sealing the dark again, and the weight stayed under me. I stepped backward. It followed. One step. Slide beneath. One step. Slide beneath. Perfect pace. Perfect alignment. Until my heel touched the pantry threshold, and the pressure stopped. It would not cross the boundary. I never went in alone after that. My parents sold the farm 2 years later. Said the isolation was too much. Said upkeep was impossible. Said the structure needed more work than it was worth. We moved to town. Concrete foundation. Full basement. Dry. Still. Silent. I thought that was the end. Until last winter. My father died in that house. He'd moved back alone after my mother passed. Said he wanted quiet again. Said he missed the fields. They found him in the pantry, collapsed beside the door. I returned to handle the property. The house had sunk slightly on one side. Prairie does that. Soil shifts. Foundations settle. The pantry floor slanted now toward the back wall where the door still lay flush. Dust coated everything, except the ring handle. I stood there a long time before touching it. It was warm. The door opened easily. Too easily. No seal, no debris, no resistance. As if something below had kept the edges clear. There were no stairs, no ladder, no crawl space. Just earth, packed smooth, descending at a shallow angle into darkness beneath the house. And troughs, long pressed channels worn into the soil, parallel, repeated, worn by years of something massive sliding directly beneath where people lived. They led inward, under the rooms, under the hallway, under where beds had been, under where my parents had slept, toward the pantry center, where the door had always been, and in the deepest trough, directly beneath that point. The soil was displaced around something that was there now, resting, exactly where it had rested when I was a child standing above, waiting under the door. I realized then the grooves didn't stop at the pantry anymore. They extended farther, toward the front of the house, toward where bedrooms had been, toward where someone had died. The boundary had moved. I backed away, out of the pantry, out of the kitchen, out into the prairie that never stops moving. Behind me, the house settled, wood creaking, structure exhaling, weight adjusting, and beneath it, earth shifted, a slow, deliberate repositioning, expanding into spaces it had never occupied before. The farmhouse still stands. They haven't sold it. No one stays long. Foundations in prairie country fail easily. Floors slope, doors stick, structures settle, especially when something underneath keeps them moving. And in prairie country, houses sink slowly, which means whatever moves beneath them rises. So if you ever find yourself standing in a quiet farmhouse kitchen and feel the boards sink gently under your feet, as if something below has leaned up against them, step away. Do not test the boundary. Do not wait for it to move. And whatever you do, don't go into the dark alone.